So I've been working on a game called PixelBlade for around the last year, but I decided to erase all of that and start from scratch. Before I start developing, let me tell you about PixelBlade. It's a game in a retro style. It's an RPG, but it's not one of those boring RPGs you see all over Roblox. We have stuff like unique abilities for each weapon, spells, minigames, unique enemies, and so much more. This game may sound good, but I decided to restart since this game runs awfully and I've become 1,000 times better. So to start with, I opened a simple base plate and started coding a basic weapon. I made it plate animations, but it can't damage just yet, so let's fix that. I made a simple config for the tool, which will make adding new weapons a lot easier. I decided on the stats and got to work on making the weapon do damage. Once that was working, I started beating my friend. Now let's move on to making this weapon more exciting. We all have seen some sick abilities in other games and I want to do something similar. Since this is a star weapon, I thought a simple dash would do. Next, I wanted to get the HUD so you can actually see your stats and what you have equipped. I just stole it from the original version of PixelBlade since this wasn't too bad. I also did all the data saving so we actually have some values to display. Next, I decided to code the entire weapons section of the inventory. I made it so you can equip items. I also added the stone sword so we have 2 items to test with. This all works out fine, but when you died, you would just disappear and never respawn. Eventually I found out what was causing this and realized it was when you unequipped the weapon. Boy oh boy, the price of being a dumbass is steep. Now then, I wanted to make it so you can actually delete items from your inventory. The bigger the game gets, the more content is going to be in there. Lucky for me, this proved rather easy to do. Next, we need to gear up. I added the Grizzle Hunter armor to the game. There are plenty of others, but we'll roll with this for now. Now I can look cool as hell. It's time to do something interesting, so I added the Grizzle enemy into the game. He's pretty lifeless right now. Then I also added spells to the game. The fireball spell is actually the only spell I ever coded, but I'll make another one later this video. Anyway, let's shift our focus onto the enemy. I made his health bar and you can damage him, although he just stands there soullessly. Before I start with anything, I wanted to figure out spawning enemies since I struggled with that in the original version of PixelBlade. So here we have it, a Grizzle spawning every 0.1 seconds. Now, I gave him movement. They were still lifeless, it's time to change that. So, I made this fuck-ass code, and here they are. They can beat you up and they're actually animated now. Truly a day to be alive. Now it's time to reward the player. In the original PixelBlade, I did this by adding the player to a table when the enemy started chasing them. And it would reward them, but oh my god, this was awful. So instead, I made it so whenever the player hits the enemy, they get added to a table. Not every player actually gets awarded. Now obviously, you're going to want to know what you're awarded. So I made it a pop-up on the screen, along with its percentage. And now, if I fight the ops, they actually respawn. Here we have a tragic case of a dead Grizzle. He may be dead, but he hasn't given up. He still has hope to at least defeat me. So yeah, I tried adding ragdolls, but then they just want to fight back, which is a no-no, so no ragdolls. Anyway, time for another enemy. We got the Ann, another OG from Pixel RPG. But would you know, when adding a bug, we got a bug. Rose somehow duplicated himself. Like, think about it. Those duplicated enemies would also respawn. If it wasn't taken care of, the world would quite literally be taken over by ants. Do you know how serious this is? Anyway, speaking of the world, we may as well add it. And oh my golly gosh, isn't this wonderful? We got the starting area, the city, a big ass field, a giant flower field with a big ass beehive. I plan on turning that into a dungeon. Anyway, time for another weapon. So here we have it, the Ancient Sword. Looks pretty rad, it is rad, and it even has an ability. It's just a simple air slash, but it's honest work. In fact, instead of adding just one weapon, let's add them all. So here we have it, the Crescendo. If you're familiar with Roblox gears, you can probably imagine what this ability does. It drags the ops into the air and explodes them. Now, I wanted to add a poison weapon to the game. So I made a poison module, then we got an Antrid's leg covered in poison. You'll see the Antrid enemy later. It's soon, but trust, it's rad. Now I'm going to add the Snazzer weapon. It looks like an enemy because it is an enemy. Now armors are kind of boring, so I just added them all at once. They do different stuff like give you jump boost, make you quick, and give you more health. It's been a while since I did anything with the enemies, so let's start adding those. So we got Centos. He's a green bug with wings. Pretty cute. Now here's the Snazzer enemy. He hides. He is cute. He's a bit different than the others though. He can't actually move, but he does do a lot of damage. Now another enemy is the Tanglewood, but I wanted things to be different with him. Before he was just a quick enemy that charged at you. At least he was meant to. But now, we're going to give him that ability to charge at you. So I've gotten to look at you so far, but he isn't meant to look at you then jump. I haven't even coded the movement and he's coming towards me, like what is this? So yeah, I fixed that. I actually made him charge at you. As you can see, it's not perfect, so I got a bit more to do to him. Things were going pretty well, but then he started doing something absolutely disgusting to the ground. I had to fix this immediately. And now, as you can see, it really does work. Until it faces through a wall, but yeah, I don't know. And now it actually does work, so we can finally move on. So I wanted to add a poison type enemy. If you remember talking about the Anchard, well this is him. Much like the weapon, he gives you poison. Yeah, that's about it. Now in the original PixelBlade, there's a drowned Brazil. You could find him in the fishing minigame, although it's extremely basic and boring. Like really boring. So, here we have it. You can pop bubbles, and every now and then, the bubble could be a certain rarity. Also, I just realized there's no fishing animation, so let's fix that. Now here we have it. Isn't it beautiful? Anyway, back to enemies. I decided to add some bees and some hornets, making them the final enemies from the original game. Now I want to add level barriers so you can't just go across the whole map in one go. So I just started from the original game since it's one of the last things I coded. Looks pretty nice. Now, the final feature missing from the original version of the game was a shop. Never fully finished it, so I finished it up, started coding the rest of it, and here it is. Works pretty nice. Now I want to do some of my own new stuff to the game, so I decided to try and make a boss. I modeled a Grizzle, aka the Ancient Grizzle, so like the dinosaur version of a normal Grizzle. Now for the real scary part to test my abilities. Adding boss abilities. And this didn't go the greatest, as you can see. After a little while, I had him up and running, and oh my god, this turned out so nicely. Just check out this gameplay. It's a little buggy, but I'll fix that all later on. Now, I wanted this boss to be worth killing. He drops a lot of XP and gold, but he needs some sick items. So I modeled a sword. As you can see, it takes his legs and one of the spikes from his back. It comes with an ability inspired by the boss's ability. You can summon spikes around you that deal some pretty high damage. And then I made a new spell. Everything within 30 stub gets stabbed by some small spikes. This turned out so nice, man. Now, I wanted to do one last thing, and that was recode the wooden sword ability. There was a time where it could kind of fly, but I fixed that, and that works pretty nicely. That's everything I wanted to do this video. I'd love some support on the game, so please join the Discord. Please! You can like vote what you want to get put in the game. You can tell me your own ideas. But with that said, it's time I take my leave. Goodbye, dudes.